Hello, I'm United States Senator Saxby Chambliss, and thanks for tuning in to our regular YouTube address. In the United States Senate recently, we have taken up several matters of interest to Georgians. First of all, as the Vice Chairman of the Senate Select Committee on Intelligence, I have the opportunity to get briefed on a regular basis about the terrorist activity around the world and those who seek to do harm to us. One of the major issues that we are dealing with in the intelligence community today is what we call cybersecurity, or the potential for an attack on our cyber system in this country. It's important we address this. It's important that we make sure that the critical infrastructure in our country, things like our water systems, our electric grid across the country, our business community, whether it be the financial community or the manufacturing sector or our stock markets, all are protected from attacks that may be made by individuals, potentially even other governments around the world. So it is necessary that we make sure that we have standards in place that all segments of our economy are required to meet from the standpoint of protecting those critical infrastructure entities. Unfortunately, in the United States Senate, we had a bill on the floor which would give more government influence to the way we address this issue of cybersecurity than would involve the private sector and the decisions on the part of the private sector to deal with this issue. The private sector deals with it every single day now. The private sector knows what it's going to take to protect their grid, to protect their exchange, or to protect what other entity it is that they operate within. And I simply think that the private sector knows better than the federal government about how to protect those entities. Do we need the federal government involved? You bet we do. The federal government has an awful lot of capability to make sure that we counteract or stop any attempted cyber attacks. So we've got to have a partnership arrangement between the private sector and the public sector, but it does not need to be dominated by the federal government. So unfortunately, we weren't able to agree with our adversaries on this issue of cyberspace. And now, over the next few weeks, we're going to continue to negotiate on the issue, and hopefully when we come back from our recess here in August and reconvene in September, we will either have a bill that we've all agreed on, or we can move ahead with a bill with the amendment process to try to craft a bill that's going to make sure that we protect that infrastructure and make sure that each of you are protected from a cybersecurity standpoint. Another issue that we have dealt with lately is one that's been of great concern to a number of my constituents, and that is the issue of the UN Small Arms Treaty. There have been a lot of rumors and a lot of innuendos put out across the internet particularly about the fact that the Obama administration was seeking to negotiate and conclude a treaty through the United Nations that would impact your ability to maintain the firearms that you have and to somehow conflict with your Second Amendment rights. Well, let me assure you, that's not going to happen. There were 51 members of the Senate, some Democrats and some Republicans, who joined together to send a letter to the President to say, Mr. President, we don't want the United States to be a part of this treaty, and it requires 67 votes in the United States Senate to ratify that treaty. You do not have those 67 votes, and we're simply not going to let that happen, and we call upon you to cease any conversation or negotiations within the United Nations with regard to that small arms treaty. Recently, the United States Senate took up two different tax proposals, one by the Democrat that would raise taxes on individuals making in excess of $200,000, and another one to simply extend the 2001 tax package. I supported the extension of the 2001 tax package. I think in these difficult times to raise taxes on anybody is simply not the right thing to do. I voted against the bill that would raise taxes on individuals making in excess of $200,000, and here's why I did that. There are an awful lot of people out there in the small business community who generate more than $200,000 in income, and they employ the bulk of the individuals all across America who have jobs today. To raise taxes on those individuals, as opposed to encouraging those individuals to work harder and for their employees to work harder to create more jobs and make their jobs more secure, is the right way to go versus raising taxes on those individuals. So I simply think that now is not the time for anybody to think in terms of raising taxes on anybody. We need to get this economy back on track. We need to get our unemployment rate down. We need to not only put people back to work, but we need to have jobs in the private sector for individuals who are coming out of our colleges, our high schools, and our technical colleges these days, and not hamper the small business community from creating those jobs that we so desperately need. Thank you very much. God bless you, and may God continue to bless the United States of America.